Hi, this is John Sarver with Great Lakes Renewable Energy Association. Welcome to our Thursday evening Zoom. Tonight we have an Ann Arbor solar story by Connor Dailey. But first, I'd like to encourage everybody, if you don't already belong to GLREA, you can easily join at our website, glrea.org. Just go to the website and there'll be directions on how you can join online. Would love to, if you aren't already a member, would love to have you join. And I would like to thank our sponsors, the State Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, Eagle, Homeland Solar, McNaught and McKay, Iron Ridge Racking, Harvest Solar, and Shree Energy. And tonight we have Connor Dailey with the City of Ann Arbor, who's going to give us an update on the Ann Arbor Solarize program, which is kind of like inspired a number of communities around the state that are doing now Solarize programs. And Great Lakes Renewable Energy Association has been partnering with the City of Ann Arbor to see if we can take their successful approach statewide. So if any of you have an interest in doing a Solarize project in your community, either contact me or John Freeman. And so with that, let me turn it over to Connor. Please mute yourself if you're not already muted. And yeah, Connor, go ahead and start the screen sharing whenever you're ready.
Thank you, John. Let's make sure my screen's working. You all see that slide there? All right. Well, on John's request, introductions. My name is Connor Dailey. I am currently an energy coordinator with the City of Ann Arbor's Office of Sustainability and Innovations. The background John referenced is that I worked for the city park system for 6 years before moving over to OSI. So my experience is at our customer service office at parks, doing all sorts of stuff, events, program registration, general customer service, maintenance, cats and trees. We got everything called in. We also assisted with some of the OSI events in the parks, which is where I got to know some of the folks before I actually joined up. And I was there for 6 years before hopping over here. So it was great. I loved it, but it's really exciting to be a part of OSI and specifically Solarize, which is a really cool program. I imagine that some of you all may be familiar with it, so apologies, you're going to hear some repeated info, but we'll have an update on kind of where we're at with the program in terms of results, how much solar we put in. So should be something for everyone here. So what we'll talk about just briefly is an overview of A20, which I'll get to on the next slide, how the Solarize program itself works, the results from the program, and then if anybody has questions at the end, I will do my best to answer them. And if I can't answer them, I will find you an answer and I'll follow up with you after the presentation. So to start, a lot of you are also probably familiar with A20, which is the City of Ann Arbor's plan for equitable carbon neutrality by 2030. It has 7 main strategies to that plan. And Solarize in one way or the other touches on 4 of those 7. So the first one, obviously, powering our electric grid with 100% renewable energy. Distributed solar is a big part of that. But we get into a few others as well. In the actual Solarize program and the events we hold, we talk about electrification, switching our appliances and vehicles to clean electricity. We also talk about energy efficiency because that pairs so well with putting solar on your home. And then I'll get to this too, but we've seen an uptick in people looking for batteries, which helps with resilience with our electric grid down here with DTE as we know it. The Solarize itself is a community-based bulk buy program. Think about Costco. You go to Costco, you buy things in bulk, they sell things in bulk, you get a good deal on it. That's basically the concept for Solarize. Solarize itself it starts with a kickoff meeting, which is held by a host of the Solarize event, who is just a resident of the community who's looking to get solar. They say, I want solar. I want to spread the word. I think some people, my friends, family, neighbors, might also want solar. And I'm going to choose my installer and we'll get them together and we'll get a discount. So that's what they do. The host chooses their installer. They spread the word to friends, family, neighbors, and then they all come together in this kickoff meeting where I present on Solarize, the 820 plan overall. The host tells their experience, why they chose their installer, and then we talk about solar more specifically with the installer in that meeting as well. The host of a Solarize meeting or event chooses their installer for any number of reasons. Could be that it's the cheapest, could be that they have a neighbor who used that installer, could just be that they got 5 quotes and they felt really comfortable with a certain vendor. It's totally up to the host who they choose for the group. And then everyone in the group gets quotes from that installer. And if they choose to move forward, they also get solar from that installer as well. So the installer is able to provide this real discount in the group because they have reduced soft costs, such as marketing. You get 50 people together in a Solarize event and you get 15 sales, a lot of marketing and soft costs that you don't have to do for those. So they're able to pass those reductions in cost onto participants in the group as discounts on the price of the solar. Question we get a lot is this open just to Ann Arbor residents? And the answer is no. Anybody in Washtenaw County is welcome. It has to be Washtenaw County, but does not have to be the city of Ann Arbor. So the meeting itself for Solarize, how it works is we actually hold it on Zoom just like this. Just hard to get 40, 50 people together on a weekday night otherwise. So we hold the meeting just like this, do our presentations, we record it. Anybody who can't make the meeting, totally fine. We'll send out the recording afterwards, and then you can view it and still participate in the group. But in the presentation and in the meeting itself, we go over the cost of solar generally, the estimated payback time. We talk about DTE's payback structure, which is a little funky for folks who aren't familiar with it. We talk about financing opportunities, obviously greenhouse gas emission reductions. We get a lot of roofing questions about, my roof is 20 years old. Should I get solar? Should I replace the roof first? So we go through some of that. We do talk about batteries, depending on the installer, and that's become a lot more common and a lot more interest for batteries. We've actually had some groups that are open to it, folks coming just to get batteries when they already have a solar, and now they're coming back. And then we do touch on some non-solar things, such as energy efficiency, electrification, EVs. That's actually something that the Solarize installer will ask. Are you thinking about an EV? Let's plan for that. And then we do touch on HOAs as well. It's not super common, but there are absolutely folks in some of the meetings who have HOAs who won't let them, or will let them, but with some restrictions. The reality we found is that a lot of people are actually really interested in solar. They may actually be raring to go and they just don't know what it costs. Can I afford it? Does it make sense for me? Does the technology work? All sorts of questions, and they just need information, which the Solarize is able to provide. One of our favorite facts to throw around is also that the most likely indicator that someone's going to get solar is that their neighbor has solar. So Solarize is as much about just getting solar out there, but also connecting people to their friends, neighbors who are also looking for solar as well. The discount structure is just like here on the screen. So in the group, if 3 people purchase new solar arrays, there's a 5% discount. If 7 people purchase new arrays, there's a 10% discount. And that's for everyone, not just the 4 who got up to the 7 number. And then it's 15% off for 10 new arrays. With 15% off, our average cost for a system is about $2.83 per watt. And that averages across installers. So throughout their group, our installers do have higher or lower prices depending on the panels you choose, or their prices generally, but that's the average across our groups. From when we have the meeting through when we take estimates for folks, sign contracts, the group's open for about 2 months. So it gives folks time to not only look at their quote from the Solarize installer, but to get outside quotes as well. We do encourage folks to do that because we're not trying to sell someone on a specific installer, a specific system. We want them to get a deal that is good for them and from someone that they're comfortable with. So we do encourage that. The installers who participate in Solarize are all pre-vetted and participate with Michigan Saves, Michigan's Green Bank. So any Michigan Saves installer could theoretically join Solarize as long as they agree to our discount structure. Currently, we have 13 installers who participate. And like I said, the host chooses the installer based on multiple bids, multiple factors, and guests are encouraged to look outside for outside bids. An average installation, an individual installation, is about a 7.5 kilowatt system with no battery usually, although that is starting to change. Before the discount and the IRA tax credit, the average cost is about $3.25 per watt, or about 22,750. And then after the Solarize 15% discount and the 30% tax credit, it bumps down to $13,536.25. So a real substantial discount, even on top of the 30% tax credit. What are the results? You know what? I actually skipped. Might have missed a slide here. No, okay, it's coming up. So the results of Solarize. We've been going for several years now, and we are about at 5 megawatts. We probably are actually hitting that to basically at this moment. We have one Solarize group that's running, and they're signing contracts, doing installations. So it's probably happening as we speak, which is really, really huge to see after 4 years of the program. We've had 650 installations and more coming. We've saved $2.2 million in upfront savings just from the Solarize discount. And then if you assume a 25-year lifespan for the solar system, we're saving around 20 million in energy costs from those systems installed. We've done 45 groups to date. We got one in progress, another one next month. And then based on our timing this year so far, we're doing about one a month, every month. In the group, and this gets into the structure as well, we shoot for about 45 people, 40 to 50 people. 45 is the average. From that, we usually get about 34 estimates. And then we usually get 15 sales, which is more than what we need for the 15% discount and a 44% estimate to sales ratio. So when I talked about folks in the Solarize groups getting outside bids, a lot of them do end up going with the Solarize installer, even if they get outside bids. In those groups, average about 115 kilowatts installed across the group, and about $53,000 in savings from each group as well, just from the Solarize discount. Individually, like I said, about a 7.5 kilowatt system and about $3,400 in savings just from the Solarize discount for that system. Batteries are becoming a lot more common. I know I've said this a couple times, but we're up to about half of participants in the past few groups this year also purchasing batteries. So about half of systems are adding those. In the groups, batteries don't get the Solarize discount simply because they generally don't have the soft costs associated with solar, and the margins on batteries are already pretty slim to begin with. So it doesn't make sense financially for the installers. However, if you're getting a Solarize discount system, most installers will have batteries available as well to go with that. We do all kinds of installations depending on the installer. You see a couple examples here. Really cool solar awning, solar on a barn. It's a pretty wide diversity of folks in the Solarize groups and what they get. I'll end with some visual aids. Here is our chart of solar over time. So it is the solar installations by property type. Solarize is for residential solar, and you can see after 2019, the numbers just exploded. Lots. 2024 is here. Obviously, we're still in it, so this number is going to get a lot higher in the next 6 months. And then this is really neat to see as well. Looking at that explosion of solar after 2019, from 2021 onward, the majority of new solar installations in the city were from Solarize groups. So it's having a really big impact on folks looking for solar in the community. And I'll finish up with, I'm a map guy. I love my maps. So here's a map of the solar installations in Ann Arbor, all over, in and around. We're everywhere, which is great to see. If you have any questions, now's the time. Otherwise, I have my email here, free to write it down. If you're interested in joining a group, hosting a group, have someone who's interested in solar, they are welcome to contact me, but we'll go to questions.
Yeah, kind of, why don't you stop the screen sharing? Then it'll be easier to kind of see people when they raise their hand. Yeah, if you have a question, just raise your virtual hand or your real hand. Michael gives a thumbs up, but
Oh, that's a question.
Oh, that's a question? Okay, go ahead.
I thought that's what you did for, okay. Where can we get a list of the 13 installers?
Just send me an email. I'll give you a list. We got it in a document. I can send it to you.
Okay.
Connor, are a lot of the installers kind of based in Ann Arbor, or are they kind of all over from Southeast Michigan?
They're all over from Southeast Michigan. Yeah, all over. They are all local. So one thing that we don't do in Solarize is we don't have any national installers. They're all local, Southeast Michigan-ish. Trying to think if there's any as far up as like East Lansing area, but they're all pretty much Southeast Michigan. So they all work within the Washtenaw County that we have, but they're not all in the county, even some are in Wayne County, Oakland.
Yeah, John Richter asked if we can get your email, if you could put that into the chat when you get a chance.
I sure can.
Yeah. And what if Connor, the program, has it changed a lot over time, or is it pretty much the same program? It seems like the basic program has been the same since it started.
Yeah, great question. I'll answer as best I can being here for 6 months, but I'll say that it I think you're right. It has stayed largely the same. Installers will come and go as they want to join the program. They don't want to be part of the program anymore. I think the discount structure has stayed the same. I want to say the big difference I think has been in maybe just the consumer side of what people are looking for, like batteries and so on. We've started to get questions about solar shingles as well. Yeah, which is not super widely out there.
What do you tell people about solar shingles?
Yeah, right now I don't think any of our solar installers that participate in Solarize currently offer solar shingles. I think there's one or two who are looking to provide the Tesla solar roof, which I believe is solar shingles, but I'm not sure that's even out yet. And those installers they don't have it. It's just an info on their page. I don't think anyone has gotten one in Solarize. So it's just a question we come up, we say, none of our vendors have it right now. Let us know what you find.
Yeah, Jay, go ahead.
I'm do-it-yourself, and that of course saves 2/3 of the cost of any system because I'm doing my own labor. So I did not get involved in a Solarize system. However, I will highly recommend that people do a battery right up front. Plan on that right from the get-go. Two things happen when you have your own battery. One is you do not need any permission from DTE to be grid tied as long as you are no export. And if you're putting all your excess production into your own batteries and running off of those at night, basically you're not drawing any power from the grid at any time except during the worst of the winter, which is a couple of months, where you use them purely as a backup supply. But without a contract with DTE, they also cannot tell you how much solar you're allowed to deploy, since you're not exporting any of that to them anyway. I went totally off grid. My grid breaker is open and has been for just over 2 weeks, running totally on solar, totally on battery, Solarc 15,000 watt hybrid inverter. And I have never been happier. The grid breaker is open. I don't draw from nor export to the grid. It's a great way to live, but it does require a battery. Thank you.
Well, kind of that makes me wonder too when you're discussing batteries with folks in the meetings. Are they primarily interested because of the issue with outages that happen in Ann Arbor, apparently more frequently than
Often.
or is it more like they want to kind of move their solar production around and use it at different times? Or is it maybe
I'd say
both?
it's both, but mainly the resiliency, especially especially in the last couple years with the frequency of the power outages. It's the resiliency thing. One thing about batteries is that there's not the same financial incentive for batteries as there is solar, right? So if you're using solar, you're not buying from DTE. Like assuming a grid tied system with a battery, you're not buying from DTE, you're using your own solar, so you don't pay DTE's higher rates. DTE is only going to increase their rates over time, so your savings increase over time. With the battery, if you kind of load shift across the day with the battery, that can help, but the savings are not the same as the from the solar panels. So for most people, it doesn't necessarily save money, but it is worth it to a lot of folks for that resiliency.
Yep. Go ahead,
And
Michael.
the batteries are not cheap either, which is part of where that comes in. I think the average size with installation in our groups is around 17,000, depending on the size of the battery, obviously. So it's not a small cost on top of the system.
And have you found that it's different types of batteries, or is it lithium ion primarily? Or I know there's different.
Good. Yeah, we're talking to someone about this, and I can't remember off the top of my head. It's definitely not the same brand for all of them. I know the Tesla Powerwall and a couple from LG are really popular, but I forget the specific technology difference.
Go ahead, Michael.
So I have a 9.6 kilowatt solar system, and I have two Tesla Powerwall batteries, and they store 27 kilowatts. And I have been technically off the grid for 3 years. So from about March to September, I'm completely off the grid. And I do export my excess to DTE. And in the wintertime, when I need that, then I can draw on this account that DTE keeps for me. So I have not paid DTE for electricity in 3 years. They do charge fees and surcharge and all this other kind of stuff.
Right, you're still paying the kind of the monthly service charges and other fees that you can't get out of, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But it's only like $10 or $15.
Right, yeah. Jay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just add DTE is the most inefficient quote unquote battery you could ever use. You will provide a kilowatt hour to them, and at most they'll give you half a kilowatt hour back. So they're only 50% efficient. Anyone in their right mind, and I say that lovingly, but anyone in their right mind would never look at DTE as being an efficient way to go or place to go and store excess energy. As for the costs of batteries, lithium iron phosphate batteries in the EG4 line of 48 volt batteries are on the order of $1,400 for every 5 kilowatt hours. So I've got a 10 kilowatt hour battery bank right now just to get started, and that cost under $3,000. It is quite literally plug and play. However, I realize most people don't want to get into setting up an RS-485 link, daisy chaining the units together, setting an address on each one. That could be a little disturbing for people. I look at it as mostly plug and play, but it was just super easy to set up. But if you're not comfortable with that level of engineering and you don't have a friend to do it for you, then pay your installer to do it, but you will pay a lot more through the installer. But I really, really like the Solarize program. That gets a lot of people involved that wouldn't otherwise. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jay. Hey, Connor, when you are doing these programs, you mentioned that you're talking about efficiency and other ways to electrify EVs. Is there a lot of interest in heat pumps and electric vehicles? What are you finding in your meetings?
Yeah, I would say more interest in EVs. At least that's what kind of comes up.
Yeah.
I'll say that when folks participate in Solarize and they want to get a quote, we actually just have them we'll send them what we need. They send us the answers. We pass it to the installer. Just easier than going back and forth a bunch. And one of the things we ask is, do you have any electrification upgrades coming? Do you have any EV purchases in the future? And anecdotally, I've seen more about EV purchases than heat pumps. I won't say that's community wide.
Okay, Ted, go ahead. You're muted though. You have to unmute. You're still muted. Can't hear you. There you go.
Okay,
That's good.
you couldn't read my lips, huh? Anyway,
I'm not good at that, no.
does anybody talk about bidirectionality in regards to an EV? For instance, we have a Nissan Leaf, which has a 6.2 kilowatt hour battery in it, and I can charge that car from my solar array, and then I can also withdraw energy from the car to the house. And that way I'm driving around my battery storage. And, it's a car. It's very usable.
And how long have you been doing that for?
Well, it's my 10-year agreement with DTE runs out in 2025. Right now I'm getting a 1-to-1 ratio with DTE. So they're my best battery. And I'm waiting for the technology, which is being developed and has been developed in other words, I don't have the bidirectional charger yet, but there's an engineering firm I can't remember the name of it, but it's down in Charlotte, North Carolina, and it's going to be on the market this year to enable that to happen.
Okay, interesting. Okay. That's in your future plans. Well, Connor, does that issue come up? The vehicle to home questions? Is that coming up with folks?
Not too often, but it does come up. It is a question that I think our installers are more familiar with because they're in the market of what is coming out. It doesn't come up as much as I would have thought so far in my time here, but it does come up, and it's along the lines of like you said, an emerging technology that's going to be bigger soon as it becomes more available.
Yeah, I'm kind of guessing you probably have a higher concentration of electric vehicles in Ann Arbor than the typical community in Michigan. So, yeah, that probably is coming, probably fairly soon. What do you anticipate happening with the program over time? Are you going to run out of customers, clients?
It's a great question. What do we see? We don't know yet. So short-term batteries are becoming very common. I expect the bidirectional chargers will be a big point of interest, at least. Beyond that, a couple things. We actually have a fellow working in our office who's kind of taken a look at that question themselves for working with, you guys may be aware of my supervisor, Joe Lang in the city, working with Joe and I on what does Solarize look like, but then what does a Solarize program look like as we try to model this for other communities after a period of time. We don't think we're through early adopters yet, but eventually we will be. Whether it's a year or 5 years, 10 years, we'll get through the early adopters. So then we don't know what it looks like, but what we're looking for is really who are we missing, whether it's from our mapping data or some other metrics of who's getting solar, who's not, who maybe wants solar, who has good solar potential and it's just not getting into the groups. So we don't know what it's going to look like, but we're trying to figure that out of where are we at, what folks are we trying to reach beyond this? Will the wants change based on DT's resiliency or not? And then I don't have a whole lot to share about it right now, but some may be aware of Ann Arbor's proposal for a sustainable energy utility in the city. So that we don't know how that will impact it necessarily. It is a question that's on the ballot in November. But but we imagine that that will have an impact in some way as people consider multiple options. So the next 6 to 12 months, I imagine, will be kind of where we see where it's going from here. But to what the fellow is working on, that's really what does the Solarize program look like overall in any community after they reach through that kind of early adopter phase and want to grow.
So you have on the ballot in the fall, in November, the SEU, the Sustainable Energy Utility, which would provide approval for the city to go ahead with it. Is that the idea?
Yeah, yep. So the city council just recently passed a measure to put it on the ballot to get the community approval, yay or nay, on the Sustainable Energy Utility. Broadly speaking, it's a opt-in supplemental community-owned utility. So not buying out infrastructure, but creating a city-owned, community-owned additional opt-in utility. And I'll say, if anybody's interested, you're welcome to go to the website we've created for it. There's a lot of questions about it, and we're trying to get answers as well. Since it's on the ballot, as city staff, I limited what I can say only to not be construed as being advocating for or against. But what we are compiling on the website is answers to just about every question that folks have in an FAQ near the bottom. So if you have any questions, you're welcome to ask them here. I may not have an answer, but if you have any, email them over. We'll get you an answer. We'll add it to our list.
This gives me an opportunity to promote next Thursday's Zoom presentation. We're going to have 4 graduate students from the University of Michigan who have looked at different alternatives related to electric supply and distribution. And one of the alternatives they looked at is the SEU, Sustainable Energy Utility, and also a statewide takeover of investor-owned utilities. I'll be interested to see what they have to say about that. And increased municipal utilities, and also giving different powers and authority to the MPSC. I guess the graduate students have kind of looked at those different options. And actually, maybe Connor, you can tell us what's your understanding of where there was a group promoting a municipal utility in Ann Arbor. What's the latest status of that?
A status of their work for the
right.
the MEU.
Yeah, I know the city was not discouraging it and kind of looking into the feasibility of actually setting up
I have a website for this too, actually. Yeah, so the city is also exploring what a municipal energy utility might look like. We completed recently a phase 1 study of what that could look like potentially, and a phase 2 study has actually been approved as well. And we're taking input on that. I'll try to find the link here. Short answer is that the group's still there. They're someone we engage with on this question. And broadly speaking, an SEU and an MOU are not incompatible. One could come before the other. Yep. So they don't make one impossible. And the group's still active for that.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, that's a difficult task to create a municipal utility. So if it does happen, it won't happen soon. I'm sure that's the case. And the SEU could be happening, it sounds like, next year.
I won't commit to a timeline, but one of the advantages of the SEU is that if it were passed, there are a lot of steps we could take very quickly.
Right. Yeah, because you don't have to worry. Well, DTE will probably sue you anyway, but
I can't speak to that, but
you could
but
probably.
Once it's approved, there are steps that the city could take quickly for the SEU.
Right.
So I'll say I will point you to anyone to the website for questions on that, because there's more on what it could look like, timing, what steps go in what order, better than I could explain it here.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That. Yeah. Go ahead, Jens.
Yeah. Good afternoon. Thanks for the good presentation. I was wondering what like the Solarize program is engaged after sales, like kind of continue on the journey, like kind of feedback from the thing, or I don't know what somebody signs on a dotted line, are you guys out, or you staying engaged?
Staying engaged. One thing about the Solarize program is that all of the purchases are directly between a participant and the installer. So we're not involved with that. What we do is we facilitate it, connect it, keep people in touch with the installer. So after the fact, if there is feedback, positive or negative, we do send a survey to everyone to fill out for that. And then if there's an issue, often folks will contact us and the installer, and we'll just kind of make sure that they're able to work it through. We're not a legal party involved with their purchase, but we do want to make sure that anyone who goes through the program has a good experience, which is the vast majority. One thing that one of our installers noted actually is that if someone has a bad experience with solar, that can turn them off from a new technology completely. So it is something we want to avoid, and it's pretty rare that there's a big issue like that.
Yeah, I think some of those things backfiring in California where maybe some less stellar performance from installers is really souring the pie for the whole community. You have a lot of turnover on the installers, or I think Michigan has kind of been going slow and steady, where maybe other states where it's like more roller coaster type.
Not a lot of turnover, and what the list is just anybody who has agreed to our discount structure and is Michigan Saved approved. So some of the folks have never held a group. Some of them have held a lot. Some of them held one 3 years ago and haven't done one since. So not a lot of turnover, but there are some installers who tend to just do more groups than others. It's very rarer that an installer leaves the program entirely, or occasionally we'll add a new one in.
Very good. That's it. Thanks.
Have you gotten any complaints or issues raised by your solar installers that they wanted you to change something with the program? Or
we've had conversations about the discount structure, raising, lowering numbers to get to those thresholds, but they haven't changed, I think, since it was created, and it's worked broadly very well, is my understanding.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the same structure that you've had since the very beginning, the percentages and the numbers. Yeah. Other comments or questions? Okay, maybe we'll end up early tonight, but Connor, do you have
parks too?
Connor, do you have parks? Yeah, Connor, do you have anything else you'd like to tell us about the Ann Arbor efforts that you're aware of? But one thing I'm kind of curious about, I know you've had some solar installations on various cities. And how's that effort going?
It's going great, actually. We I don't have the numbers in front of me. I had them in another presentation. We've added solar to a lot of city facilities, a lot of parks actually. And we're continuing to add more. We're getting bids for more, and it's just continuing. A lot of city facilities are now getting it, and we're also adding some battery backups to some as well. And not just city facilities, but a couple of our community centers as well, like North Side and Bryant, that we work with the Community Action Network on.
Yeah, fire stations too.
Yeah, yep. A lot of the facilities are getting them or are in the works to get them. Most of them, I think.
Yeah, you have a community resilience approach, right? So that some of your facilities can be used during outages for people who need shelter or need.
That's the community centers. It's not my area of expertise, but we are one of the parts of our resiliency strategy in 820 is, I think, a community center in every ward. The 5 community centers that have battery backup, solar, can just run in the event of a power outage, heat, AC, and be that community resource. So right now, the 2 we have are the Northside Community Center and the Bryant Community Center, and adding more. So those are those 2.
Okay. And the plan is to add 3 more, 1 for each ward. Okay. Yeah, Andy, go ahead.
Hey, I know that you work in solar primarily, but I was just interested. Do you know of any good companies that do heat whales or heat pumps?
So one is the city. We can't recommend any specific installers um, for recommending anyone specifically. But what I will say is that we often will point folks if they're looking for in Solarize for a roofer or a heat pump installer or anything like that. Is the Michigan Saves contractor list is a great place to look. They on that list, excuse me, they'll go through and all of their approved installers are, they've got insurance, nothing catastrophic as far as Michigan Saves knows has happened. They're reputable as far as they know. So that's a great place to start if you're looking for someone like that, and just kind of shop around the installers that are on that list. If you go to
Okay.
Michigan Saves website, they have a contractor list. You can filter by all sorts of services they provide, one, multiple. It's a great place to start.
Okay, because I've spoken with a few, and they didn't really want to do what I wanted done. I want one that digs into the earth, X amount of feet, and take the heat. I guess the new thing now is they're using
The
compression.
geothermal.
Yeah, I want geothermal, and that's what I was after. And they tried to give me like a heat pump with and I understand it's electricity, but I want to minimize my amount of electricity as well. And if I could get the heat generated from the earth, I think that fits. Even though I'm using it as a secondary, but or my initial, and then I'll have a small heater as my secondary. That's what I'm really after. I'm trying to just limit my amount of energy usage.
Unfortunately, I think I'm just going to have to stick with the Michigan Saves list and just call around. I imagine that someone on that list has worked in and around the area doing that. I know it's not super common in Ann Arbor to have a geothermal system on a residential lot. People absolutely do it, but it's expensive and some of the lots are just small, so it can be tough to do. But I would try that list, Andy. Start.
Or maybe go, this is the end, maybe go the other way around. Look at your well drilling company that maybe drilled your water point, and they might do drill jobs for the contractors that then install the heat pump.
Okay, Jay, go ahead.
Well, in response to the query about geothermal, after doing a lot of research and legwork, I would recommend Haley Mechanical out of Dexter. They do geothermal, and they're pretty open to any variable designs. But what I wanted to say was I congratulate Ann Arbor Solarize at tickling the 5 megawatts installed point. About 3 years ago, working with Dave Strensky on solar Ypsi, we hit around 2.5 megawatts here in Ypsilanti. And at that point in time, we were kind of leading the state for the greatest concentration of solar within a community. And Ann Arbor, we were always surprised. Why isn't Ann Arbor on top of this? Tons and tons of tree huggers. They should be doing this. And apparently Solarize was the key instrument to make that happen. So again, my congratulations.
Yeah, if you since Ypsilanti has done so much in Ann Arbor, if you just look at Washtenaw County, it's kind of a lot of solar installations in Washtenaw County. Other comments or questions for Connor? Okay, seeing none. Well, we can break early today. Connor, any parting words before we kind of adjourn?
I'll say for anybody in the area who's interested, the Office of Sustainability and Innovation's A20 week, their big event week, starts on Sunday. We have two to 5 events every day with our collaborators on the A20 plan, and everything from bike lane tours to a couple of our staff hosting trivia at the Haymaker Pub downtown. Check out our website. We got all sorts of stuff going on if you're interested in learning more and you want to have some fun.
Oh, that sounds good. Ted, did you have a question?
Well, not a question. I just wanted to remind everybody that next week on Thursday at 1:30 at the state capitol, Senate Bills 152 and 153 are going to be presented to the committee. I would urge all of you to write some emails to your senator and representatives informing them of this and asking them to support these bills.
Yeah, thank you, Ted, for mentioning that. And, you know, if you go to the GLREA website, glrea.org, you'll see a take action button, which basically can lead you to a page where you can send you put your address in, and you can send a message to your state rep or state senator about those community solar bills. We anticipate that they won't actually take a vote, but we're happy that it's actually having a hearing about it, because that's an important part of the process. So hopefully the thing will keep moving, because you know, this is one of GLREA's priorities, is to get community solar program in place so that local governments, private developers, nonprofits can actually sponsor community solar projects that you know, will provide an opportunity for renters and people that may not have good sites for solar. So Ted, thanks for reminding us about that hearing. The more support there is for those bills, obviously, the better the chances for it to get enacted. So does anybody have any parting thoughts or comments before we adjourn for tonight? Seeing none, thanks everybody again for joining us, and hope you can join us next week when we can see what these U of M graduate students have come up with. Take care.
Good night.
Thanks, Connor.
Everyone.